everybody, welcome to Robert's Train Set, and here we start now the part 6 of my journey from Hornby's RAILMASTER and eLINK to the DR5000 by Jinty and iTRAINS. And before us we have, obviously, as you can see, 3 locos. And what's this episode going to be about? Well, I alluded to it at the end of the last one, which was aired about a week before Christmas. Hopefully you've seen my running session on Christmas Eve, if not on the day, but later. And I'm recording this really near the beginning of December. So I don't quite know how the new COVID outbreak has gone. So I'm just hoping that it was all not too bad and that we had all a nice Christmas. So I'm hoping you've had a nice Christmas and enjoyed yourselves, which is what we couldn't do last time, isn't it? So that's what I'm hoping. Obviously time will tell. We've got the Oxford Rail N7. Very nice loco, I like it. Waited a hell of a long time to get it. Jinty. And you know, they're bought very cheaply. They're only sort of railroad standard, I would say. But in this particular one, I've got and it's a lock sound version 4, which, you know, is now getting on a bit, isn't it? But there we are. Alright. Now this is the sound version, came from the factory like that. And this will obviously have a TTS decoder. First of these steps, basically, on every locomotive, is we need to do the vital measurements. And if I get hold of this steel rule, we need to measure from the buffer to the end of the buffer. So the rear buffer to the front buffer. And in this particular case, it's about 127 millimetres, as you can possibly see. And you then enter that into the database for this locomotive. Now the other thing you need to do is it's called the offset, and that basically means where the first wheel that will pick up power. So obviously on this one it's this wheel here. So if you go from the centre of that wheel to where the buffer ends, and looking at that, it looks to be about 28 mil. And you also need to do the same at the back. So line it up with a buffer, go to the centre of the wheel, and in this particular case it looks like it's about 32 or 33 mil. So you enter them into the database on all the locos that you want to do. Now I'm going to probably try and do the 3 that you've seen, and we'll see. So that's that bit. So let's go on to the next bit. So the next bit is we get the old folder out with all the information from these locos that I've saved, and I've got out, as you can see, the Class 08 manual from Hornby and the Oxford Rail Class N7, and these are basically sound details, not the maintenance. You might notice I've not got one for the Jinty. Now I don't remember ever getting one. So it's not a particular problem, because what I've noticed is that the N7 has a lock sound version 4 decoder in it, as does the Jinty. So hopefully we can take the details from this one and do the same with this. And what we need to look at here is, so this is the decoder settings for the N7, so the Oxford Rail. But as I say, I'm going to hopefully assume that they will be similar for the Jinty, although that might be an earlier version 4, I don't know. And what we need to look at is basically the start voltage, the acceleration, the deacceleration, and the maximum speed. And if you notice, they've got a default. So 04 there, 28, 21, 100. And that's what I suppose they think the locomotive will run the best at. But what we've got to do is these figures here, whatever it is set at, when I read it, we need to go down to that. And these we probably need to do similar. And then we just have to run it and see what effect it has on the sound reproduction. So need to do that with all three, but I'll just show you the 08. So here's this excellent, I always thought that the Hornby TTS sheets on the decoders were really good, lots of information, that's what you want. But what you can see here is we only have an acceleration and a deacceleration, and you do need to look at the notes, and you can see you do 0 to 255 for the setting, but the default is 15. Now if I go below the 15, will it mean that the sounds won't work properly? Could well be, so we'll have to experiment a little bit with this. Now in Bob Fowler's videos, he said between 0 and 5 for these sound decoders. So I will set it to 5 and see what happens. So there we go. But it's a problem because I can't do the maximum speed or the minimum speed, which might be a bit of a problem. We'll have to see. Don't know. So I'm mentioning this now. Obviously, if we take all the settings out of the decoders in the locos, something must replace it. And what replaces it is iTRAINS. So in iTRAINS, and not at this stage, but much later on, we need to give it information about how we want them to run, how fast we want them to run, where we want them to stop. And these are all different bits that have to be sorted out for each locomotive, and they will be different for sort of whichever locomotive you decide you're going to run. So it's all looking a lot of work, doesn't it? Which I did expect, and this is before we even start putting the sensors and everything and the isolated fish plates in the layout. It's even more fun. Cheers. So once we've done that and we've got these locomotives set as low on those settings as we can, we have to determine and sort of play around with the settings to get these locos to do a reasonably slow start, although not too slow, because you want it to move, but equally you don't want it to move so fast that if it reverses into a train to couple, it will smash into the train instead of going gently. So there's that one to do first. And then the maximum speed, you want to set it to the loco. So in this particular case, this Jinty, I think, I think it operated at around sort of 50 miles an hour maximum. We probably could stretch that to 60 possibly. And the reason for this is you want to use the whole of the 128 speed steps to control the loco, or rather let the computer do that. So that's going to take a bit of time, and what we need to do is set up a bit of track that we can work that out with. So with the old trains parked up there ready to do whatever they need to do, what do we need to do these speed tests? Well, as far as I can understand, we need a bit of track, and we need that divided up into 3 sections. So what I propose to do, and it can be curved track, it doesn't have to be straight apparently. So I'm hoping that this end curve here to where we've got the brake, which is there, will be the first bit. The measuring bit will be from there, hopefully, to where my finger is. And then the last bit, at the moment, will be from just that double straight, because there's an isolation one there, and obviously they've got 2 sensors. But I could take that out and take that one off and use the whole of that again as the third bit. I just have to experiment and see if it works just having this little short bit. Don't know. I can see it being a problem if you've got a long loco, but I don't know. So that's the next thing to really sort out. Go away and do that. So once we've got those values, we can then put a speed graph on, which again means using these bits of track as a speed check. to get not a straight line like I've had where I've been running these so far. It will vary depending on how these perform, and as far as I understand it, iTRAINS sorts that out for us. So we'll see how we get on with that. And then there's something called I think it's called variables, I'm not quite sure, and that is basically to try and get the locomotive to stop at a spot accurately. And that's another looking like another whole bit of quite hard work to get that sorted. So that's the steps we need to do to get these locos to hopefully perform better under iTRAINS.
So let's see how they perform under the DigiKey system. So as you can see, they slow down quite nicely, don't they? And even backwards. So this is a Jinty. I break it, and there we are. Very, very controlled and nice. Here's the N7. So I think this is at about half speed, sort of thing. Something like that. And the N7 takes quite a long time to slow down, which is all down to the decoder settings. So the 08 was very slow, so I've sort of speeded it up a bit. And I'm not sure this was half speed, but it was probably faster than it used to go on Hornby's system. So here we are coming into stop. And again, nice and slow. So I then did it on iTRAINS to see how that worked. And yes, that's sort of similar to the other one, isn't it? And again, with the N7. I didn't do the 08 because it wasn't actually on the iTRAINS system. But I think we can assume that they're going to be very similar to what we've seen here.
Well, so we've seen how these trains perform as they are at the moment with the decoders set at whatever they're set at, and I don't know if you recognise this, perhaps you haven't, it's always been hidden away a lot. This is actually the eLINK from Hornby. This is the actual black box that makes the computer functions go through to the rails and ultimately to the locos. So I've got it down here in the lounge dining room on the table, and I'll pan back a bit. And I've got my old laptop there for using it. And what have I done with this? I've got it connected to this bit of track, and that is just like a programming track. I've got no cables going to the rails, just to this little bit of track. And that's all I'm going to use it for down here. So I have put the Jinty on, and I've reduced the acceleration and the deacceleration from what they were, and I think one of them was at 80, down to 2. So I've reduced them to 2, the both of those, which is what we were told to do. So we'll put the camera on the Jinty, which is in the siding, and I'm going to run it on the DigiKey system at the moment, just to show you. And then we'll try it actually in the program, and I'll try and do that automatic train and see if it makes any difference. I won't actually have the carriages now, I've taken them all away because this is about the locomotives, but I can still run the Jinty as a train. I must say I've got transformers and leads everywhere down here. It's not ideal. So I've got the DigiKey's drive properties up, and it's programmed in for the Jinty. I'll put the sound on. Now I've only just tried this to see if it works, and yes it does, it's got the sound. And I'm going to start it off with the wheel on the mouse, like we're allowed to in this one. So we'll put it forward, and I'll give it a little whistle, and away we'll go. So we'll let it get out on the main line. So here we are, the Jinty running around at 25 speed steps and quite happy. And as you saw, it pulled away quite well, didn't it? No problem. But that was under the thumb wheel there of the mouse, and you can do them at one speed step at a time. So what I'm going to do now is I will bring the loco to a stop here, and I'll show you something. So here's our Jinty sitting at this end of this straight. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just start it off with the volume or the speed at probably 20 or 25 speed steps. Now, in the old days, it would have started off slowly and built up speed, but this is what happens now. So if I click the mouse, let's see what happens. Wow! That'd do well in a sprint race, wouldn't it? So, like when we did it with the decoder at the right settings, this is at 64 speed steps. So what I'm going to do now is when it gets to the end of the straight here, I'm going to click it and use that button that used to slow it down normally. So here we go. So I think that gives a very good demonstration of how they work when the decoder settings are really, really low. But what I'm pleased about is in this version 4 decoder, the sounds do seem to be working okay. So I can leave it at 2. And that's what was told for sound locos, anything between 2 and 5. So I've done this at the lowest. I will do the same with the other two, and we'll see how they go. But yeah, I found this really interesting. Right, now, I think while I've got this Jinty going, I'm going to bring up iTRAINS and see how it performs under iTRAINS. Right everybody, so I've set up iTRAINS and I've got this down as a train and I'm going to ask it to go from this front part of the station to the rear part. And if you remember what happened before, it wouldn't stop, would it? I'll now go and set it off and we'll see how we go. I think they'll assume that iTRAINS isn't in complete control of this engine yet in auto. So here we go. Slowing down. So we reduce the CV values for those two and we'll see. I would imagine they will work the same. So I don't really think it's worth showing those performing like this. So what's the next bit we're going to do? Well, I think what I'd like to do is get some photographs of these in. Now I've got the one for the Jinty, but obviously not one for the N7 or the 08. So I think we need to get a photo in for those. So that'll be the next bit. So as you can see, that little experiment with the Jinty with all the CVs turned down, I mean, you know, that's what we need to get iTRAINS to control it properly, but not at the moment. So I'm in my photographic studio to do the photos of these locomotives, and I might even do, although I probably won't show you them all, I might do a few of the wagons and the carriages. Might be worth getting a picture in. So I thought I needed somewhere nice and flat and fairly bright, and in this photographic studio, which most of the time is my kitchen, it's quite bright, and I'll show you in a minute. There's even a light that can illuminate what you want to take if it's not bright enough, or if you don't quite like what you're getting. So I'll turn the camera around and just show you my photographic studio. So here we are, my photographic studio. Basically the worktop with the all-important kettle on, and I've got a cup of tea, or a mug of tea, out my owl mug at the moment. So I just stand them up against the tiles, the creamy tiles, and there's all my implements. There's my tea, and my sugar, and my cooker. So very nice photographic studio, everything to hand. So I just basically frame it and do what you want. You can obviously turn it towards the camera. If you wanted to take these, you could have them on your layout and get a picture on that. But in my case, I just get a plain picture of what it is. I think that's the best way. So in this shot, it looks a bit brighter, doesn't it? So let's have a look and see why. And if I turn off the light, you can see it does make quite a bit of difference. So I'll just go up underneath, hope it won't blind you. And we've got a little fluorescent here that's had ages. And what's good about it is you can adjust it like that, which works quite well. So I think I'll keep the light on, because although it's bright out there, there's no sun. When the sun's out, it's quite a thing. So let's turn the camera on, just put it there, and I don't know, you probably won't see it, but you'll see what I take on the computer. And I just want a nice plain picture of it. So let's just push the button. There we are. Maybe just I could do one like that in case it looks a bit better. So while you've got it set up, it's worth just taking a few extra pictures, isn't it? Not too bad. I think I still prefer the straight one or the square on one. So there we go. So that's that done. There we are. So that's done. So the N7's out the limelight, and we'll go and have a go at this one now. So I'm sure you don't want to watch all this, so I'll do a few of these while I've got it set up, and we'll come back.
So as you can see, I've taken a few photos here and I'm quite happy with them. They're not too bad at all, really. So the next stage is to reduce these pictures to a pixel size. I was told by the people that showed me how to do this, down to 4,000 pixels. So we opened one in Paint, Microsoft Paint, and this is where they are when you download them off the camera. So I just call them raw pictures, loco raw pictures. And we've got the 08 in Paint, and you've got the opposite to resize and skew. So just click on the pixel line there and comes up with 489, and you reduce it down to 4,000. I'm pretty sure you could probably make them smaller or bigger or whatever, I don't know, but that's what I've been told, so follow instructions. And then you can go to Save As, and you can choose what to download them in, JPEG or BMP. I think either of them really matters. And then you need to save it in another file and give it a name. And I've saved it in Loco Pictures. Seems fairly obvious to differentiate it from the ones that have been converted, that haven't been converted. So when you've done that and saved it, you can click out of Paint. So you then need to go into File Explorer, go down and find Users, although it may be the name of your computer or whatever, you have to sort of sort it out. And if you click through quite a few users or your names, you end up with the iTRAINS section in the side panel there, as you can see. And you click on the iTRAINS and you get documents, images. So you want to click on the images down, and you can see you've got cars, interfaces, locos, wagons. Now, if you haven't got what you want, you can bring that into the main pane and do a new folder for it. So I've got one for GB coaches. I'm going to put one for GB wagons. I'll type that in, as we have there, and we're all ready to go. You then need to bring up the file with your pictures in that you've just created. And just to let you know, when I did the locos one, I didn't even have a UK one. I had to create the UK. It might be because I deleted the demo. It might be. As you can see now, we've got the GB coach, the GB wagons down the side there, under the wagon, what's the name? We've got our pictures that we saved earlier, that we converted. So bring the coach down, drag and drop, and just drop it into GB coach, and it should be there. You can also do it, highlight it and then move it, and then you can probably save it in the file. So open iTRAINS and go to the wagon section, and as you can see, you click on that, on the images, and go to GB coaches, and it should be there, and there it is. So that's all ready to be used. So you go to the, don't forget to save it or apply it, otherwise it won't be there. Open the desktop there, go into the, choose your local, well I did it on the local passenger because that's where it wanted to be, and if you look, you can see that we've got that picture there. The other one hasn't got one yet. We haven't done it. So as you can see, it's a bit of a convoluted way of getting these into the thing, but I do thank the two contributors to help me do this, because I wouldn't have done it by myself. So this picture here, it's the beginning of showing you my bit of good news, and I actually got iTRAINS to work properly. So with no more ado, we'll get on and I'll show you that.
Well everybody, I hope you've enjoyed what you've just seen, and I know it's a rather long video and this is going to make it even longer, but I just want to show you something. Down there we've got our freight train with our N7, but this time the computer knows how long it is because I've put the wagons into the database, albeit not with the pictures yet. And here we have our usual small passenger train, which obviously the computer does know the size of because everything's in the database. So why have I got all these carriages and wagons out when I said I was just going to do the trains, or rather the engines, but as trains? They just don't look right going around with no wagons and no carriages. And I want to show you something quite special here, I think. I hope you'll enjoy it. So I've taken the camera up high to show you the whole table, and you can see near enough all the track except obviously what goes behind the computer. So I'll set these trains off on one of the routes that we used to try and do, shall we? Let's see how we get on. So if you've seen some more of this video, you'll know what I actually do on the computer, so I won't show you that, just show you the trains. So I'm going to take the passenger train from where it is at the moment on the front of the station to the rear of the station, and I'm going to take the goods train from where it is now to just in front of the computer. So we'll see how we go. As we can see, the Jinty's with the small passenger train has reached its destination and turned off. So where will the N7 turn off? It's now in the home straight where it's been sent, and the slowness of it may be down to where I've got the track speeds at. And there we are. It stopped. It probably could have gone a bit further down towards the point, but it stopped. So if you watch the next episode, which is number 7, I'll explain the eureka moment, not mine, just watching somebody else's stuff to sort this out. And I'm really, really pleased.